What's up, everyone? All right, well, here we are, red day recap. First, really good sized red day in a while for me. It's always disappointing. I never like having big red days. Today kind of was the perfect storm where I'm on my new trading computer, which, as always, you switch computers and some of your settings. I tested them out, but some of them weren't working. Like, for instance, none of the audio alerts were going on my scanner. So, right at the bell, of course, that's when I realize it, and I've got to kind of quickly get them turned back on so I can know what's moving in terms of the audio alerts. So little things like that kind of threw me off my game a little bit. It was snowing out, was running a little late to work, so it's kind of like a little bit flustered, and sat down, leading gapper, life, jumped into it right out of the gates. And then, my first trade was a small winner, and then jump back in, and it just was like a big drop. And I got back in it a couple times. I kept kind of going back for it, and I just kept losing on it. It was like ridiculous. It was frustrating. So I took 5 trades on life, and I lost on 3 out of the 5, and I lost over $7,000 just on that stock, which is terrible. It's not great. I'm not happy with that. I did make money on CTIB, which was good. That one squeezed up about 300%. I made about $4 grand on it. Even though it made a really big move, I didn't feel like I could take enough size because I was kind of chasing it the whole way. So I kind of took small positions, breakout, and then I gave back $1,000 on the last one, so finished up only 3 grand, and then there was a third one that I lost on. So just kind of a choppy day, and I'm a little bummed out, but it's the way it goes. So I hope you guys enjoyed this red day recap as I get into the details of the 3 stocks I traded. Green on only 1 out of the 3. Obviously not a super strong day, but maybe a couple days of rest before we see kind of the next wave of momentum, and we see some more stocks start to really open up. All right, so as always, questions, comments, leave them below, and I will see you guys first thing tomorrow morning. Hopefully we have a good gap scanner when we log in tomorrow morning. All right, see you guys in the morning. All right, everyone. So we're going to go over the trades from this morning. Today is going to be a red day recap, and it's the first red day in a while. I'd have to go back and look at my calendar and see when my last red day was. But, and I had a close call red day on, it was either the day before Christmas or 2 days before Christmas, where I went down about $2,400 and then I ended up finishing the day up $15,000. Today's a day where I went red, I bounced back into the green, and then I dropped back into the red. So, in fact, I'm more red than if I had just stopped trading after my first, couple of trades. But hindsight, of course, is 2020. It's easy to say that looking back that I should have just walked away sooner. At the time, I thought it was worth continuing to trade. So, let's look at the gap scanner, and we'll put up life first, because this is the one that I'm the most red on, and it's the one that was also the leading gapper, which is kind of disappointing that it ended up failing as much as it did. All right, so at 9:20 this morning, life was on the gap scanner, gapping up 68%, and this was our pre-market chart. It had, let's see, let me just refresh this. Was it really that much volume? That doesn't look right. 9:15. Huh. I don't recall it having that much volume. That's not possible because it's got 8 million shares of volume right now. But it had a lot of volume. I think it was maybe about almost a million. I think it was like 800, 900,000 shares. So I was gonna say that I feel like I would have noticed that. So the pre-market high was $8, and generally speaking, I thought, okay, this looks interesting over the pre-market high. Is there a place I can get in a little earlier to anticipate the breakout? And I thought that looked like about $7.32, about $7.30 roughly. So the bell rings, and in the first 1 minute, and by the way, the daily chart, we were opening above the 200. No clear gaps or windows on the chart, but also nothing really concerning. So I just kind of left it there for the time being. All right, so on the 1 minute chart, the bell rings, and I jumped in right here for the break over 7. It was right over 7:30. I'm in at 7:30. It pops up to 762. I take my profit. It then drops back down to 690. I'm only out with about $300 of profit. It was a quick move. It then curls back up, and on the next candle, I jumped back in thinking it looks like it's gonna break back over the highs, and that was right here. This candle squeezed back up to 55, and I got back in at about 45, 48 for the break of 50, expecting that after it broke the $0.50, that it would rip back through a high a day. And, then we'd be looking at this sort of $8 spot. This ended up doing a couple of really big whips where it kind of whipped up and then just flashed back down. And so in this trade right here, I got back in it with 6,000 shares for the break over 750. It hit 755 and then dropped back down to 7, and I lost $3,000. So just like that, I gave back the profit I had made, and I was down about $2,600 on it. All right, so then it flushes down here, it drops down again, it comes back up, and it just continues to show this choppiness. It hit a high of 50, but it couldn't break over this 50, 55, 60 level. So, just kind of struggling, false breakout. We watch it continuing sideways. Right here was where I ended up taking my last trade on it. And this was a really disappointing trade. I jumped in this as it was squeezing up because what I thought was that we were getting ready to have a break of VWAP. A break of VWAP and then a quick rip up through the high a day. And so as it started to squeeze up on this candle, I got in at 680, adding at 690, and adding at 7. I took 11,000 shares, which was the biggest position I'd taken all day. I really thought it was going to work. And if I look at the 5-minute chart, maybe I should have been a little bit more cautious. The first 3 5-minute candles were all red and were dojis. You can see these long topping tails and bottom tails, and it was very choppy. It was really whipping around. I thought that if we had this tipping point and break a VWAP that we could get a quick move. I thought it looked like the right type of stock that could do that. And maybe it was earlier here, but after these 3 candles, these are like 3 big kind of red flags, waving right in my face. Red doji, red doji, red doji. It's whipping around. It's very choppy. And so I jumped in here on this green candle, which was a pretty big green candle, no doubt about it. It looked at that moment like pretty good. It was the biggest green candle in a while, pretty high volume, second to this one. But of course, this one did something pretty similar. And this one did something pretty similar. And so did this one. So it hit a high of 706, and I was actually planning on adding up to 15,000 shares if we broke over 720. Now, obviously, if that had happened, and then it did a quick rip up to 740, 750, 760, that probably would have been a $7,500 winner. But that's not what happened. It ended up dropping right back down to 662, 650. I hit the bid at 662, and I filled 5,600 shares. I then hit the bid again. I didn't fill at 45. It dropped too fast, and I ended up hitting the bid at 621. So, I ended up losing on that trade a solid $5,000. And that just really kind of ruined my day. Now at that moment I was already red because of TRNX, and I'd given back the profit I made on CTIB on TRNX. So I was already not in great shape on the day, and that just ended up being the trade that was the end of the day for me. So that was disappointing. It was a false break, as you can see. And what sometimes happens is when you have, these can be particularly strong setups in the sense that when you have a false breakout to the downside, the stocks can rip up really quickly. Like right here, we had sort of a double bottom at 655. And as it ripped back, that almost looked like a pretty good setup because anyone that shorted into that double bottom gets faked out and then has to cover as it rips up. But on the flip side, anyone who buys into this false breakout ends up having to bail out, plus the short sellers go short, and that's where you get that imbalance to the sell side. And that's kind of what creates some of these big whips in these types of stocks. So definitely disappointing on Life. I took a total of, I believe, 4 trades on it, and I was red on, let's see, actually, no, I took 5 trades and I was red on 3 out of the 5, and the 2 winners that I had were both pretty small. So I'm well in the red on Life, and I'm disappointed with that. You know, but at the same time, it's part of trading. I mean, you can't be too disappointed. You can't let a stock, you know, make you crazy. This is just part of trading. You're not going to win every single trade. We all know that. So it just means keeping your losses as tight as possible and not overstaying your welcome. I think the mistake I made on this is that I overstayed my welcome on a stock that was already showing a lot of choppiness. Yes, break of VWAP is a valid setup. It's probably the only thing that would have worked on this. But I sized too aggressively considering it had already shown so many warning signs. So that was a mistake on my part to be that aggressive. So the loss, I still probably would have traded it, but the loss maybe should have been a little smaller if I had been a little more mindful of the risk on that stock. So that was Life. So anyways, I started the day down 2,400 on Life, but I actually got myself into the green by about $2,000 on CTIB. I'm up only $3,000 on it right now. So CTIB, it was on the gap scanner right here, but I didn't have a lot of faith in it, mostly because at the time it was a cheaper stock. It was down at around $1.20. Well, it ended up squeezing up to $1.83 and getting halted on a circuit breaker. It resumes. I get in for the break of $2. It opens at $1.84. It dips for a second, then surges up. I get in at 2, and it rips up to a high of $2.41. I'm holding a small size into this halt. This is a 5-minute chart. If we look at the 1 minute, you'll see that it squeezes up. I bought it right here for the break of 2, hits a high of $2.38. It then dips down. I'm all out. I sell. As it curls back up, first 1 minute candle to make a new high is over 2. I got back in actually at 220. I think it was 228. I got in a little high, or maybe it was 220. In any case, I got in a little higher. I wasn't totally sure it was going to work, but as it started to open up, I jumped back in, and it rips up to 241 and gets halted. It resumes, and I add coming out of the halt for a test of $3. It hits a high of 333. Almost halts again. It doesn't. Then does a micro pullback. First candle to make a new high. It pops up to 365. Another pullback here. Back in for the break of 340. Back up to 375. A dip and a pop to a high of 385. So I ended up making $4,000 on that move right there, which was not bad. So at that moment after that trade, I had gone from down 2,500 on Life to up 4,000 on CTIB. I was up like $1,700 on the day, which is a pretty good day. Not bad at all. I ended up getting back in with a starter right here. It was right around this spot here. And when I got in it, this was right around 10:30. That was when Life did this breakout right here, 10:21. Okay, so actually I got in it, must have been CTIB. Must have been right. It was like right in here somewhere. Where was that? Wasn't right there. Anyways, I got back in it in this area with a starter, and I was just holding it. I ended up stopping out, and then it ends up going all the way to 4. So I ended up giving back some of my profit on it, whatever. But I stopped out because I was losing on it, and I need to focus on Life. So I switched gears to focus on Life, which you know, obviously was a pretty quick trade, and then whatever, put me below my max loss. So CTIB finishing up $3,000 on it. I'm a little disappointed that I didn't do better, but I was, I guess, a little distracted by life, and that early loss had put me a little on the defensive. And then once I ended up hitting max loss on it, I was done for the day. The second stock I traded after CTIB was TRNX. This one, you know, is kind of frustrating. All of a sudden it pops up from 120, 130, 140, 150. And I looked at that and I was like, this looks really similar to CTIB. And I saw that there was a catalyst on it. So I jumped in it at 48 and 55. The halt level was, I think it was 65. I thought it was going to squeeze into a halt. I thought because this looked really similar to CTIB that it would have, it would kind of trade in a similar way, which is often the case with momentum, that several stocks either in the same sector or similar price range or similar technical setup like float or recent reverse split will trade similarly. So when I saw it squeezing from 120, 130, 140, that was my analysis. What I failed to do on it prior to getting in was check the float. The float was 32 million shares. It was not on the high day momentum scanner. It was being called out by traders in the chat room because it was moving quickly, which it was, but I neglected to check the float. And so I jumped in it, and because I thought it was looking so similar to CTIB and looking good, I took bigger share size. This candle right here, it drops from 155 down to 131. I held through that drop. It happened very quickly. It then consolidates here. I gave it a second to bounce back up, and as it broke 135 here, I bailed out and hit the bid. So that was disappointing because on that trade, I gave back most of the profit on CTIB, and I put myself back in the red on the day. Because of course, at that point, I had taken a $2,500 loss on life. I'd made $4,000 on CTIB, which put me up $1,500 on the day. And then I lost $2,500 on TRNX. So now I'm down $1,000 on the day again. So I'm back to red on the day. And that was before my final trade on CTIB, where I lost another $1,000, and my final trade on life, where I lost another $5,000. So overall today was not a great day. And you know, today is a day where I'm in between small account challenges, and so I'm trading in my bigger account. And you know, it's like in my bigger account, of course, I can trade with larger share size, and it just so happens that, you know, I haven't been focusing on the large account for the last like month because I've been doing small account challenges. I've been trading it sort of on the side, but not focusing on it, you know, as much as today. And then today, the day I'm focusing on it, trading with larger share size, we end up seeing really kind of choppy action. So that's disappointing, to say the least. You know, it feels like today is one of those days where it is a pretty big step backwards, relatively speaking, to, you know, how what my green days have been. Not to say that I haven't had some really great green days in the last month. I mean, you know, I can't say that I haven't, because I've had some great days. $15,000, $19,000, several $5,000, $6,000, $7,000 days. So, you know, to be red down 7,300 in this account it's not the end of the world, but it's also sort of the beginning of the month. It's the beginning of a new year, and so it sort of feels like, you know, not the right direction to be moving in initially, but that's a very short-term outlook, because trading is all about averages, and you will certainly have days where you lose money, and the goal is to try to keep those days as small as possible. And then, you know, if you do have a day that gets a little out of hand and the loss is bigger than you wish it had been, one of the important things to do is to kind of recap, what did you do that day? And that's why these recaps for me are really so beneficial, not just for you, but for me as well, because it forces me to go back through my trades and kind of ask myself, where did things go wrong? And I would say today that things went wrong when I took this trade on TRNX, because I traded it impulsively without doing my full checklist, because I saw it moving and I wanted to jump in that momentum. And I didn't realize until after the fact that this stock really didn't fit within my wheelhouse. And at that point now I'm back to red on the day. And I think that kind of experience of going from red on the day to green and then back into the red set me to be maybe searching for something more aggressively that could put me back to green, which is why I got back in CTIB for that final trade that I ended up losing $1,000 on. And it's why I got back into Life for a potential break of VWAP, which did not end up happening. So, I think I got in for the first 5-minute candle to make a new high. It was right here. And then I got stopped out. Maybe it might have been right on this candle before this thing ended up ripping up. But at that point, I was not in good shape on the day. So, live to trade another day. I mean, that's the important thing. There's no such thing as a trader that doesn't have losses from time to time. There's no such thing as a strategy that doesn't incur losses from time to time. It will happen to all of us and to the best traders. And even the very, very best traders in the world who trade, with 7-8 figure accounts will have days where they end up losing, who knows, a couple $100,000, $500,000, maybe more, big money traders. So it's all relative. The most important thing is that if you're trading with real money, that you're able to say that this strategy that I trade is consistently profitable over the long term, as long as I stick within the rules. Now, if you venture outside of the rules, then you're bound to get yourself in trouble. So having that reminder every day of what my rules are and staying within them is important. Today for this account, I did not have 3 consecutive losers. And I didn't have, I guess I gave back more than half of my gains, technically speaking, because of the profit on CTIB and then losing it on TRNX. I guess I didn't really look at it that way because I had already been red on the day. And in the moment, it didn't quite occur to me that I had crossed that threshold. But I guess I had. And then now I'm down below my max loss. So, which is set at $5,000 on this account. So this is my big account. I do trade aggressively in it. I'll have some big green days, but I will have some big red days. Over the course of, months and years, the account has consistently grown. So this is just going to be one of those days that I'm going to close red. It's disappointing to have a big red day towards the beginning of the year, but it's also a good reminder to focus back on the basics of the strategy, knowing what works and everything else. So anyways, that's it for me. I hope you guys have a great rest of the day, and I will see you, as always, first thing tomorrow morning, where hopefully we will see a little bit of better momentum off our leading gapper Life. Today, just leading gapper, and it's been terrible all day long, and that kind of set the tone, I think, for the rest of the day, which is unfortunate. You can see this stock popping up now, QUIK, from 7 up to 831, right? So when you see something like that, it can be very tempting to jump right on it. I'll pull up the level 2 just so we can see what it looks like. It's got 100,000 shares of volume with large spreads. This thing could go right back down just as fast. So at this time of day, this is where a trader who's in a state of desperation can start throwing money at the market. And if you're jumping in stocks with 30-cent spreads, with 3,000 shares, you're instantly down $1,000. So you're going into this with basically the cards stacked against you. And that's not going to work long term. So you have to focus on highest quality setups. And I think today I overtraded crowded stocks. CTIB got a little crowded. TRNX was very thickly traded, and Life became very crowded. So the loss today is the result of probably overtrading a little bit. So anyways, I'll be back at it first thing tomorrow morning. Press the reset button, and hopefully we have some better momentum in the market. All right, see you guys in the morning. Hey, have you seen my most popular video on YouTube? It's got over 5 million views. You can check it out right here, and check out one of my other videos on YouTube right here. I hope you guys enjoy, and as always, if you have questions, leave them down below in the comments section. I personally respond to every comment that's posted.